I just did like this. Rock on. Well, welcome everybody. So Backup Monster Show 32 episode, and today my special guest again after a year is a Dave Russell. So Dave, let's go on stage. Hello, my friend.
Hey, good to see you again.
Good to see. And I'm apologize. Like always, you need to wake up really early morning, but I'm really thrilled to have you here. I just said, we've been seeing each other last year, and I believe we have a really good time there.
Definitely.
So so if we came back in a good mood, we have lots of story to tell, because lately we just discovered the data protection trends 2023 by the Veeam. So our goal is to definitely go deep dive and discuss this subject.
Perfect.
And like always, do you change any collection of your guitar since the last year? So what changed actually? Let's start with the real problems, yes, before we'll go into
There
the
we
data
go.
protection part.
Actually, I'll quickly tell you a funny story. One thing that's new is this brown one behind me. I actually
Okay.
built in 1999, sold it, bought it back, sold it again, bought it back, and now 22 years-ish later, 23 years later, tracked down a guy that I sold it to that sold it to another guy and bought it back a third time.
No way. So you're making money by selling and buying again. So
I think
not
I'm
nice.
losing money by doing it, but the one that got away finally got back.
This one is also handmade. So it's and I bought it when I was like 22 years ago. So it was 2001.
Yes.
It was made, and I did a huge scene because I wanted to have a gypsum, and I tell them put the gypsum here, the naming, and I didn't supposed to do it, and I know that I need to change it because it's a Les Paul custom, but it's not, let's say, original one. It's a handmade, but I believe that it's reserved for my son.
Nice.
So that's definitely I need to refurbish and change it. So coming back to the guitars, so if you will stay till the end of the session, I have some technical problems, so I cannot turn on my guitar today, but hopefully we have a Dave, and they have a bunch of the good equipment, so we'll try to play a little bit to give you some good sounds, especially for the rock 80s and the 90s. But unfortunately, we need to come back to our main subject. So let's come back to work and discuss the data protection part. So I just mentioned for all of you who are watching us, just tell us from where you are watching us. If you will have any questions, because we have roughly about 19 slides, because there's a bunch of the information we need to support with the slides, but we'll try to also discuss and have a real-time discussion with you. So if you will have any questions during the session, feel free to ask. I will notify and tell Dave that we should a little bit stop and go and conquer our point of view and make it a real discussion. So shall we start, Dave?
Yeah. So what we're doing here is breaking down data protection trends, like you said, for 2023. Veeam's been doing this report now for 5 years. The last 3 years, each year we keep increasing it to be the largest ever in the history of backup. This year, it's 4,200 respondents from 28 countries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I got 2 or 3 questions. So why we, as a Storware, speak with the Veeam? It's natural. We are working on the same field. There's a big brother, small brother. So we always want to compare these numbers and see how we see it in Europe or the different countries, because we have lots of similarities, but we don't need to agree on every aspect. So this is the beauty of the cooperation and the relation that we built in the last years with the Dave. So I just want to answer this question. So let's go with the first one, the hybrid. It's important because we've seen this growth. Everybody told us that we will go to the public and on-prem will disappear, but the customer is saying a little bit different. So if you could deep dive this subject, Dave.
Yeah, so let me quickly decompose this because it looks like it's a really busy chart, but it's actually not too difficult. We've been asking the same question now for multiple years, and going back to 2020 through 2023. And then we always ask people, what do you think you'll do 2 years in the future? So that's why you see actually a large number of bars here. What you can see is the trend on the right is physical on-prem, virtual machines on-prem, and then to your point is the cloud hosted on the right-hand side. And yes, during the beginning of the pandemic, we saw a pretty sharp decline on-premises going to the cloud. But I think you really nailed the key takeaway is that customers aren't saying that they're going to turn off their data center. It's actually kind of 50-50 on-prem versus cloud. And when you are on-prem, it's pretty close to 50-50 a virtual environment and a physical environment. So in other words, we're doing multiple things and nothing's going away.
Yeah, I think we are on the stage where even the biggest public vendors saying it's not sense to put everything into the public cloud. I think they got the lesson learned.
Yes.
And they know that not every workload is good for the cloud. So the hybrid approach is always the best. And I believe the multi-cloud approach is also from the security perspective and differentiate between the different vendors are really good. So not only the AWS, but maybe AWS, Azure, or the IBM, or the other vendors. So the multi-cloud approach plus the hybrid, we need to be aware that these trends will be significant, and it's important from the data protection platform. So we need to be everywhere if you would like to think, to protect all of the critical resources. Let's move on.
Yeah, this one is interesting. So the two different statistics here, and bear in mind, this is 4,200 people self-reporting, generally the backup administrators. On the top, they're saying they have a gap between how fast they can recover it. In fact, 79% of people are saying, we don't think we can recover data fast enough if we have to. And the oh wait, it gets worse news is that the bottom figure is saying there's going to be a gap between how frequently we back up and how much data we can afford to lose. So if you take these in combination, it's saying roughly 4 out of 5 people are saying they're going to not be able to recover fast enough, and just over 4 out of 5 people are saying, and when we recover, we're going to lose more data than the organization can tolerate. That's a bad news situation for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, it's quite a significant number. To be honest, when I saw it first time, I'm surprised still,
Yes.
because it means that most of the served companies, and let's take that this is a, let's say, information from the market, that most of the still, and not only enterprise, the companies, they don't meet the RPOs and the RTOs here. And questions here if they have a wrong still, target when they put in the data. So are they rely on the tapes? Are they rely on a disk, or the way do they have the proper software or the proper schedules to maintain and achieve these numbers? I still feel that it's good that they're showing that there's a problem, but I think the bigger problem is that they don't have they don't test it on a daily basis or the weekly or the monthly. It's still, this is one of my biggest concern, that we have a software, we have a, let's say, whole platform, but we don't have time to get the answer, is this data is recoverable in a specific RTO or not. So from one thing, it's good that they have a concerns, because it's good that they are aware.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on.
So the good news, speaking of good news, you're right. Awareness is a first step, right? And then hopefully that leads to change. Here, what we're seeing is one aspect of change is, can you afford to do it? So a lot of numbers here, but what I'll just break down for you is the average of now 2,100 organizations that said they understood what their budget was going to be coming into this year for backup, said that they were going to increase by 6.5%. And that, I think, is an interesting number, because if you look at IDC or you look at Gartner, overall data center spend is around 4%. in some cases a little lower. So more organizations are saying they're going to invest 50% or 60% more compared to the average of what the rest of the data center is going to spend on. So to me, that says people only spend money and more money if they think that there's a problem to fix.
But do you think increasing the amount of the budget is because of the concern of lack of the functionalities, or because of the ransomware? What is the major trigger that you've seen build this awareness from the budget perspective, or the software or the components are just more expensive these days?
I don't think it's actually overall average cost. I think it's a combination of, we saw the workloads going to multiple places, still physical on-prem, virtual on-prem, but going into more and more cloud deployments. And then in the next series of slides, I think we're going to unearth what really are the challenges and what people are looking for. So we'll just kind of decompose this. The simple question is, what do you think is enterprise backup? And here we're back to 4,200 people. The long bars are check everything that apply. And then it's stacked ranked. If you could only choose one, those are the shorter light green bars. Number one is, well, I want to protect cloud workloads. And so to me, that makes sense because we saw that shift over the last 3 years, a lot more cloud deployment. So backup solutions have to catch up. Maybe they've got to spend more because they've not been protecting in the public cloud. If we look at the next one, though, it's got to be reliable. And we kind of saw that earlier in that gap, that protection gap about lose too much data, take too much time. It's an old bad joke, but you can't back up, or rather you can't restore that which you have not backed up. So you have to have a reliable system if you're going to be able to recover.
So
and then
still, so I understand it's still, because we believe in that everything is so simplified, all IT and all systems, but still, the meaning of the enterprise means, reliable and easy of use. So after, being more than 20 years on the market, the customer is still struggling.
Yes.
Even if they have this enterprise software, they are not reliable. So this is quite interesting. Why they put one of the top? To be honest, I thought that they will be more concentrate on a different feature set than on the reliability here.
Yeah, it's a great point, because I think if we were having this conversation 10 years ago, that would absolutely be true. It was all about a unique feature and capability. Yep. Now it's struggled to get everything to work and get everything to work in the amount of time that they have.
Maybe one of the things that changed, we drastically overloaded the software backups. Yes. With the new feature set. I have a many times conversation with the customers. Okay, show me the feature set. And to be honest, in many cases, I'm saying, to be honest, I don't want to have the same feature set as a competition. To be honest, I don't need 80% of the feature because you will not use it. Let's concentrate on what is the major need for the backup to have a proper restoration. But I believe, we in the last decade, we've been so focused on what's new. Give me the latest version. Give me the latest. That market forgot about the reliability. If it's coming back, it means that there is no sense to run so fast. You need to, in the end, give. Of course, cloud is important. We cannot disadvantage and disagree with the first point. But this is also the information for most of the backup vendors. Give the stable solution, not only the full of feature set, but slow down and be more reliable for the partners, for the channel, for the end users in the end.
Yeah, 100% agree. And if we go to the next build, I think you're seeing now a change in what's enterprise, meaning it used to be enterprise was about how big everything was, how many machines you could protect, how many tape drives you could mount simultaneously to be able to write the data to. You can see really towards the bottom of the list highlighted there is that scale of protected devices. But what rose to the top in terms of scale is it's more horizontal. I need to protect more locations. Maybe there's more people working from home, or maybe I have more branch offices. but it's more about managing the location that it is all of these devices, so that there's a changing notion of what does enterprise really equate to.
Yeah, I remember we started, let's say, 10 years ago with the endpoints backup. Everybody said there is no sense, let's go because we have a shared disk and everything is a data center. Then the COVID came up and everybody came back to talking, what about our endpoints? Let's figure it out. But the endpoints philosophy and this heterogeneous way of the different sources, so mixing with the cloud, data center endpoints, definitely I got less questions how big you can scale, but more how we can manage it in an easy way in a geolocation. So I fully agree with this point, and this is the same, let's say, feedback I got in a daily basis from my partners and the customers.
Excellent. And then the last build on this is that, as we saw, things aren't going away. So the environment is very heterogeneous. We need to be able to support traditional workloads as well as emerging cloud workloads. So up at the top, IaaS and SaaS, but in the middle there, roughly, we still have Oracle or SAP, and we still have some legacy systems, some Unix, some network attached storage. So part of what enterprise is be able to support all of my many different deployments. And if you can't, that's probably one of the reasons why reliability has been a challenge. So if we just kind of wrap up, the key takeaway of what enterprise is on the next build, it really comes back to just protecting IaaS and SaaS and then having a reliable solution.
Yeah, and this, heterogeneous means in most cases to be, let's be, clear and honest. For many vendors, it means, using the different set of the products to achieve this challenge. The OEMs, the acquisition of the third party. So we have a small amount of the time, and the requirements for the supporting multiple, let's say, even hypervisors engines is growing rapidly. So I know that you came also as a Veeam into Red Hat virtualization world. I guess in 2022. We've been in KVM since 2015, and even not concentrating on a VMware, but we saw the need of protecting the KVM based hypervisors, because we also seen as a Storware that heterogeneous is the key to understand that every customer has a different variety of the even virtualization shops, and they looking for easy of use and reliable backups. So I'm glad that you also came as a Veeam into this direction. So it proved to many of my friends why you doing the KVM base. Right now I can say Veeam is going also this. Do not ask me this silly question. It's important because many of the still, not only the SMB, but especially the enterprises, they going into this direction, the OpenStack, KVM, not only the VMware and the Hyper-V shop.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on.
So there's the key takeaway that we just discussed. Now that if we go to the next slide, we'll get into a different question, which I think really begins to answer, why people are going to spend more. So this is my colleague, Jason, and I, who do this research. We like to call this the money slide. I don't know if that translates well, but this is like the big important slide, right? This is the money slide. So the question is very simple. What would drive your organization to change your primary backup solution or service? And again, this is 4,200 organizations across the world. The number one thing is it has to work. And we're seeing this again. We saw reliability express itself in terms of a modern architecture. We saw the challenges with lack of reliability in terms of not being able to meet the speed or the data loss issues associated with recoverability. So number one, reliability. Again, the long bars are check all that apply. The short bars are what's most important. But I think what's interesting is, so we're seeing the same concept express itself in multiple ways. Here's the one that I think is really fun. And if people have really good eyes and they're looking at what that text says, the reason we said the takeaway here is freedom of choice is you'll notice some of these things are the opposite of one another. I want to move from on-prem to the cloud. No, I want to move to more cloud solutions. I want a software-only solution. I want an appliance. I want to have the right tool for the right task. No, I want to consolidate my solution. So there are two sides of a coin, really. I want it this way or I want it that way. So what that basically means is there's no one size fits all for the market, right? The good solution has to offer choice. And we've been saying choice for a long time. Veeam has also been very much advocating flexibility or freedom of choice as well.
And this is, here the slides is, open for me in person, the question, open question to the market, actually, and also for our audience, because, one of the, philosophy and the market is pushing, just build everything single pane in glass. So for one way to manage it from the one console, from the one product. But from the opposite way, I hear the voices. Okay, if you build the monolith, you cannot fully concentrate on a specific need for the dedicated, let's say, island like the AWS backup or the containers, etc. So we have two different trajectories. One is saying, protect all-in-one philosophy with single pane in glass. Second is much more modularity philosophy, dedicated islands for the specific type of the workloads. What's your personal opinion, and how you could align to even the Veeam strategy? Because we as a Storware just consolidated 3 products into one. What's your, let's say, way and perception of these two conquer worlds?
Yeah, I think there has to be a meet in the middle. To your point, one pane of glass to rule everything is a bit ambitious. And it's also very difficult to do. On the other end of the equation, we don't want 10 different point solutions. So I like to use the word a platform a platform that's really modular. And what does that mean? Well, it means you can take certain workload components and deploy them individually. Maybe it's just protecting Microsoft 365, or you mentioned, for example, maybe it's AWS and you've got another solution you're using somewhere else. But for those organizations that do protect multiple workloads, the platform notion or platform services communicating back and forth to centralize reporting, to centralize policy, but not require you to deploy this large, monolithic, very heavyweight solution. I think the meat in the middle is offer the choice to protect the workloads that you need to today, knowing that you need to be flexible for tomorrow.
So more modular way. So be, let's say, really good in a specific area, but also based on it, build a unified platform to manage it and orchestrate it.
Right. Well said.
Okay.
This one's interesting because we're used to thinking that economics are hugely important. And obviously, at some point, money matters for every organization. But we saw that organizations are saying they're going to increase their data protection budgets. The converse of that, or the flip side of that, is that then the economics aren't the number one thing that would cause them to change their backup solution. Yep, there's still a desire to reduce software or hardware or to move from a CapEx, OpEx model, but that's certainly nowhere near the top. So if we go to the next build, the real takeaway on these change drivers is we're seeing some common themes here, some trends. Mm-hmm. The reliability is really important, and the flexibility of being able to deploy it in the way that you want to deliver the solution in the way that's most appropriate for that business is hugely important. And you can't really, I like to use the phrase, the tools or the solution shouldn't dictate to the business how they operate. The tools are there to support the business. So it's important that what we do, what we offer from a protection perspective enables, not restricts.
And again, we see this, reliability. So, to be honest, I'm glad to hear it. So it's not the feature set. If I see all the time that the new features is demanding, everybody, everybody knows that the backup platforms is like a proper, life insurance policy. So you need to have a proper and reliable partner that it will gives you the money in case of any data, health loss.
Yeah.
Our job is to give the data come back to the source in case of any data loss. So you need to be, when you're using the proper platform, software plus hardware, you need to sleep well and believe that in case of any disaster or any happens, especially in a ransomware world, which we'll talk about later on today, it's crucial because these threats not only from the data loss, but also the data corruption, compromission, is a little bit changing the way how we do behave. And this is also I believe, it puts customers into the problems with the nowadays security, build the awareness that we need to also invest more. That's why I think that what you said, Dave, these bars from the raising the budget in the data protection are bigger than it used to be, or showing with the different scenarios from the Gartner or the other players. Uh, and flexibility, yes, I believe, giving the, especially from us as a backup vendors, multiple way and the choosing the best licensing model gives the best results for both. uh, Everybody knows that right now we more pushing into the subscription model. It's not always mandatory. We still see the many regions worldwide when the customers would like to have a perpetual. By understand that, for example, here we show in the VUL this universal license giving this freedom of choice. So it doesn't matter what protected entity I have, I can use it and migrate easily this license into the different entities, protected entities.
Yeah, exactly. The benefits, and there's a few, but I'll tell you a couple benefits I see on subscription is that portability that you mentioned, right? My workload started on premises and then it goes to a cloud. And then possibly a year later it goes to a different cloud. So that portability of license is important. But if we think just about all the data we've shown so far, the whole overall industry is saying they need help. They need to change. They need to improve. So the thing I like about subscription is rather than having to invest all that money right now on a 3-year deal or a 5-year deal, you can spend over a period of time. So that could mean if budgets are going up and you're going to a subscription model, you can afford to transform and better protect more of your workload sooner, which hopefully next year when we get ready to do the 2024 data protection trends, we see some improvement in some of these challenges. Although I will tell you, I'm already a little pessimistic because IT moves very slow for good reasons, right? We're risk averse. We have to support the environment. We can't introduce so much change so fast that we destabilize the environment. So some of these trends might take a few years to really improve and see material differences in. I hope I'm wrong, by the way. I hope next year we find out everything's perfect, but history says that probably is not.
Yeah. No, you will have customers or early adopters that they change really rapidly, but we still see that there are some sources or the systems that they were designed in the 80s, 90s.
Yes.
And we need to be aware that they will not change because of the trends. They have their own, let's say, technology depth and usage. That's why, for example, containers is not not over the place. That's why the virtualization will not disappear in the next 5 years. Even if we will take the most geeky containers guy, it will not rule the world. It's the best technology for the specific type of the applications and CI/CD pipelines, but not for all of the apps today. So to be in person, I would like to a little bit slow down in impacting the new features and new, let's say, ways how we can deploy IT infrastructure, because I noticed that in the last few years, many of the IT infrastructures, many of the IT departments, they are really overwhelmed what's going on. And to be honest, even many times we do not talk about the when we talk about the Storware, we do not talk about the software itself, but we talk about more how to put it in a proper processes, how to build this reliability, and then the technology goes on. And I remember that when I was even working in IBM, then working in as a system reseller. So I proposed many of the vendors. It was always, okay, show me the software, show me the software, show me what you got. Right now, I don't want to say that software, it doesn't matter what you have, but first, I see more conversation regarding how your software will manage the change in our infrastructure. I didn't have this kind of the conversation years back.
Yeah, I think we're moving, even as technologists, more towards business outcomes, right? It's not technology for technology's sake, although clearly we both love that and we've been in the backup industry for some time. But really, it's an appreciation of what can the technology do for the business? What can we do to support what the business needs of us? And that's changed over the last few years, and there's no reason to think that we're not going to continue to experience that change. But that flexibility and reliability goes back to the solutions have to support the organization.
Yeah, so fully agree with the slides. Let's move on, team.
So now we're going to get to a new line of questioning, and this is an interesting one because the part that I hid was looking at what are all the causes in the last few years that took down an organization's servers. So we stack ranked by 3 years of data from 2020, 21, and 2022. The all causes are the long bars. And really quickly, I will tell you that if you add up the long bars, what organizations are saying is there are multiple things in the last year or 2 years that have taken down my server or my application unexpectedly. So just pausing on that, I think, is interesting because here we are, 2023. We like to think that redundant power supplies and improved components with a better mean time to failure have solved all the things that we used to worry about in the data center, but they haven't. Everything that used to go wrong in the data center many decades ago, those things still go wrong. And now, but we've added a new one, which you can see is percolated to the top. It's the top, both in terms of the most common issue and then also the most impactful for the last 3 years, and that's ransomware or cybersecurity. And the reason I think this is so important is that it basically means we've got to plan for what we've always done, which is things unfortunately fail, components break, someone makes a configuration error, what have you. But that's what usually led to us only restoring 3 to 5% of our data. Now comes cyber event, which could mean we have to restore or recover 100% of our production data. This is why the IT teams are so busy.
Yeah, I like this sentence that, years ago we thought about the disaster recovery plan, but right now, this what you mentioned here on a slide on left, ransomware is a disaster. So this is a real outage, and it can really easily spread into the 100% of your data if somebody is doing it in a proper way. So definitely good point.
Here, this is a series of really bad news data points. And so I hope everyone watching, the key takeaway is don't get depressed by this data, but use it to fuel a better conversation about how your organization can be better prepared. So what is the slide saying? It's saying in the last 12 months, how often did you suffer a ransomware incident? Year over year, the number of people that said they were not hit declined rather dramatically. So previous year, 24% of people said that they didn't suffer an attack. This year, only 15% of people said they suffered an attack. Bear in mind, though, that 15% is a best case scenario. They may be under attack and just not know it yet. Or it may be a very large organization. Someone in Poland isn't aware of the data center in Australia or in Sydney that maybe has been compromised. But the real key takeaway in my mind is that half of the people, 49% of the people of almost 2,000 organizations here said that they were hit 2 or 3 times in a 12-month or 1-year period. This means I like to say that we have to plan for breach. We have to plan for a cyber event to hit us. And then here, really quickly, I'll decompose these numbers. It's also bad news. And this is an organization self-reporting. They're saying on average, what happened in their most significant ransomware event, almost 40% of their data was either encrypted or destroyed when they think about a bad ransomware event in the last year. When they went to recover, what they're saying is a little better than half, at 55% of the data they could recover. Now, it's early morning. Well, actually, not too early. It's out at 7 a.m. now. But I did get out my HP calculator. And if you do the math, if you can only recover 55% of 39% of encrypted or destroyed data, that means your worst ransomware attack resulted in 18% data loss. That means you lost 2 out of 5 servers or 2 out of 5 applications. Nobody has that kind of data to lose, right? No one can afford to lose 18% of their data, especially if you're going to be attacked 2 or 3 times.
I have a small sentence with the caffeine effect. So we are in a deep shit. So no, to be honest, it's quite. Let's come back to the previous slide. This is a real disaster, and because I thought that still most of customers, they don't share this information, that we've been hacked, we've been attacked. And if we, let's say, the good news is that we are mature to share this kind of the knowledge, because what I saw a few years ago, nobody had a ransomware attack.
Right.
But of course, everybody knew what's going on behind the scenes, because it was a little bit shame to, expose that we don't have enough security to provide or prevent this kind of the attacks. Right now, I think we are on the stage that doesn't matter if you invest. Of course, it's good to invest the best, the best practices and the best software or hardware, the consultancy into the business. But always somebody will find a way how to attack you in a proper way. So it means that doesn't matter if it's only a matter of time that you will be hacked. So the backups it's not the always let's say the safe zone, but it's better to have a proper one, not compromised backup that do not have it. So having a backup, having a proper backup, stable backup, it means you don't need to pay always the ransom. You have a choice. But then we're coming back to this time, Dave, to the slide about our RPOs and RTOs, yes. Because if we say in the 80% of the data, even if we have a backup, we're coming back to the business continuity part and saying, okay, how much time we have, how much time we're paying for the disruption of our business continuity. So it should giving us the scenario. We should talk more with the board members, with the CIOs about the subject. Not are we properly protected, or okay, we need to be ready because the attack will come shortly or later on, but it will happen.
Yes.
So it will drastically change the way how we perceive this kind of the threat. But these numbers are really, really big. To be honest, it's not good news.
No, it's not good news.
Still, I'm happy because I'm always smiling. It's not that I'm happy because I'm a backup vendor. And I'm in a good mood. I don't have a 7 a.m. I'm sorry for that again. We have a 3:13. So 13 past 3 in a central Europe. But still, it's not good. It's not a good slide. So the challenge is huge, and I believe this gap is bigger and bigger.
Yeah, that's right. And if we hit the next slide, what does this mean? And we've been talking a little bit about, business outcomes. So whatever digital transformation means to someone's business, the number one issue or challenge in terms of achieving your digital transformation objectives has been cyber. It's been, the most challenging, and it represents the highest of all of the challenges. Forever, IT administrators and CIOs and CEOs have been saying that skill shortage is a real issue. Economics are an issue, but what rises to the top are cyber threats. And I think that should concern many people, because what that really means is ransomware is happening so much and having such an impact that more and more of the IT staff has to focus on that versus focusing on how that they can move their business forward. So until we get better about cyber threats, until we get better about improving the reliability of our backups and the speed of which we can restore, cyber threats are going to be a drain on what the business can hope to achieve.
Okay.
Now, let's talk a little bit of what's the antidote here. Business continuity or disaster recovery. We're seeing some shift. Year over year, we rose from about 31% said that they were recovering into the cloud to pretty big jump from 31 to 46% said overall they're recovering into the cloud. Now, a lot of organizations still recovering on-prem, but that move towards the cloud and being able to spin up servers at another location is happening faster and faster. That can be especially appealing from a ransomware perspective, because when you get attacked, your on-premises infrastructure may be compromised. Or you may not know, you may still be under attack and not know if your systems are clean or not. So failing over to new systems, new infrastructure in the cloud might be a very good way to get back on track, get your business up and running. Or it could be that the government, or if you have cyber insurance, they want to do some investigation. They want to do forensics, so they won't let you restore back on premises because they want to be able to go and inspect that equipment themselves. So if we go to the next one related to business continuity, disaster recovery, here's an area where I think there's opportunity for improvement. What we would hope is that more and more organizations would say that they are orchestrating their failover and failback. But only 18% are saying that. Almost a third are saying that they're going to manually go configure things. They're going to manually go grab ISO images and look for software keys to reinstall things. A little bit better than that is about half at 52% say they're going to use scripts that maybe they wrote a long time ago, or that maybe someone else wrote, or professional services, or someone that's no longer in the business. So you mentioned a great point earlier about testing. Most of those scripts probably have not been tested. And that's the challenge with not having an orchestrated or automated mechanism that allows you to do tests. What I think if we could preach to people is, do test your backups, do test your failover, do understand that you have to plan to be attacked successfully by bad actors or cyber criminals.
Now, the question is, let's come back to the previous slide. Just one river. You think it's rely because of the more software and the more businesses moving into the cloud from the disaster recovery perspective, so secondary data are stored on the DR, or you think it's more because this compliance restriction of what's triggered to rise this number of the cloud approach here?
I think what we're seeing, like the last 3 years especially, is that organizations are deploying more cloud services. The pandemic forced them to maybe accelerate their move to Microsoft Teams, or to do Microsoft Exchange on-prem and move to M365. So the more experience they get with cloud-based services, the more they begin to trust it, want to actually accelerate their cloud movement. So again, I don't think anything goes to zero. Recovery on-prem and on-prem workloads don't go down to nothing. But I think we're seeing that move accelerate to embracing more cloud capabilities as people get more confidence.
Okay. So let's come back to the last slide that we have for today, audience. Yeah, this 52% is still, I know that many, and I let's say share the concern that most of the scripts are old one, nobody tested. You know how it works. There was a guy 10 years ago, he did all of the automation, and everybody believed that it's working like this. But even right now, the year, what I loved, one of the sentences that my architect told me a few months ago, that the business continuity plan or disaster recovery plan is out to date after the second that you give in to the board of members. But everybody thinks, okay, checked, we are good. But the IT, if it's this organism that is living all the time, we would like to build. I think we sometimes believe that we control it, but this organism is all the time changing, and we need to be aware of these changes. And to be honest, nobody, if somebody says that I control all of the changes in my IT infrastructure, they saying, oh, okay, they are not aware of the same bullshit. So it's one of the challenges, to maintain the change in our IT. It's a part of the digital transformation. We don't want to stop, but we would like to get a better control of the changes, not only from the typical IT infrastructure or the software layer administration, but the same thing we would like to have in a backup software. So in more and more we'll inquire and build the automated dev tests and build the sandbox recovery, we can achieve this probability that if something changed, we'll get this notification through the backup system that you cannot recover, you cannot do this. But I sometimes, when I speak with many of the IT C-level or IT directors, they don't want to have this knowledge, and they feel more comfortable with if somebody will not notify them that there is a problem, because it's the problem management. The change is the problem. And from the psychological point of view, no, not everybody likes the changes, but we need to accept it and we need to prevent it. That's why it's the gap for the ransomware is growing all the time. I believe we can skip the slides and just go on a full screen with Dave. Huge topic to discuss. But I believe we gave you the bunch of the proper information is based on the latest report prepared for Veeam. There were lots of QR codes, and on the first slide you got the link. So please feel free to just go on a Veeam site, download it. Thank you, Dave, for sharing this knowledge. But let's come back. Let's leave the business for a while and come back to our private thing. But let's before that double check if we have if we have any comments. So we got the people from Hungary, Warsaw, Italy. We have some Brazil folks. So glad to hear such as news. One of the comments, the latest one, is our company received a ransomware attack in 2022. We were able to fully recover with the Veeam BMR program. It took longer due to the amount of data. For this reason, we already use 2 storages and replicas for the regularly made for the critical VMs. Good. I don't want to say that we're learning more after we, damaged, but we call it in Polish, we're saying uczymy się na własnych błędach, so we're learning based on our mistakes. In most cases, I think it's not only the Polish, but all over the world.
Oh, yes.
So we need to be more predictive. We need to be more, I think, a little bit curious and cautious about what the future will bring. And not only read about the AI, because everybody is right now talking about the AI. AI is good, but AI will not help you in case of any disruption of your business. But the stable business, it means the business continuity. It means that you can sleep very well. So you need to avoid this kind of the mistakes. You need to spend more time and test. And I will let's say repeat this all the time during my career, if I will be still in the backup area. Hopefully I will. But the same sentence that we talked 10 or 15 years ago, you will not avoid the changes, you will not avoid the increase of the new data, the wave of the new data, because the consumption is bigger and bigger. So segment the data that you would like to protect, put into the proper policy, put the proper hardware and the software layer on top of it, and be consistent, test it. Maybe not in a daily basis because nobody has the time, but build the automation processes to be sure that key resources are restorable, and think more about the data security. Anything else during according to the report before we'll go to one of your guitars, Dave?
Yeah, I would just encourage everyone to download it. It has nothing to do with Veeam. It's not a Veeam commercial, meaning these aren't Veeam customers alone. Veeam is only maybe 7% of all the respondents. I like to just say there's even more data than what we covered in there. And to your point, you owe it to yourself to get educated. Those people that don't want to know the bad news, they're setting themselves up for failure. Go learn ahead of time. And we all learn, unfortunately, the hard way, like the Polish saying that you shared. But here's an opportunity to maybe learn ahead of time, so you don't have to learn after the fact or the hard way.
Mm-hmm. Let's put also the latest from the Eugenie, because there is also some comment. So one of the problems.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I like to use the phrase if you replicate, let's say, to 3 different locations simultaneously, 3 bad copies of data does not equal 1 good copy of your data. If you've just propagated the error, that's of no help. What you've done is you've made the infrastructure reliable. You haven't made the data reliable.
Mm-hmm. So coming to the reliability, so which guitar always gives you the what type of the sounds and the guitar gives you this reliability? So you take in the guitar, you have your own favorite. Yeah, I know. I reminded from the last year. So Dave, let's try to find some similarities between the disaster. So let's say we remember from the last year the sound of the ransomware and the sound from the disaster recovery. So if you let's say take all of the outputs from today's conversation and put it into some of the sounds, like we did it a year ago. So let's say what type of, if we're talking about the ransomware, what type of the sound from your guitar we will hear right now? What do you think? Let's take this kind of the challenge. So you need to be aware that this is a real guitar. It's not AI. It's real Dave with his guitar, with the real amp. So right now, let's try to listen the ransomware attack of 2023. So in the end, you kill the system. You kill.
Yes,
You know.
that's exactly
You
what that was. That was
yeah.
exactly it. The
The last
system's
the
doing.
last scream was provided. 2 days ago, I was on Joe Satriani concert in Warsaw, in Stodoła, with my son, and I was on more than 100 different concerts, but I took the small kiddo with me, and everybody said, "Oh, he's so small. Let's go into the first row." And I said, "Oh, what's going on here?" So we saw the concert from the first row, and in the end, the drummer, noticed my kid and give the drumsticks to him, and I said, "Oh gosh, what's going on here?" And he's playing on the drums, so he was so energetic for him that I think he will play the drum for the next month
Oh, that's
without,
awesome.
without any motivation. The recovery testing, the automated recovery testing in a sandbox using a different software. So we restore the data. We have a green light. We see that everything works smoothly. We can work on a daily basis. What kind of the sound we'll hear from you? So admin who see that everything works smoothly, fine, and feel comfortable about the data itself. Nice one. And what I will remember about today's session is the world reliability and the flexibility we mentioned many times. So we're not right now hitting for the numbers or tons of the new features, but every customers who thinking about the enterprise software thinks I would like to have more reliable and flexible software, or the platform, whole platform itself. So take these two words into the last final sound, Dave. So what kind of the sound we'll hear when we'll think about the reliability and the flexibility?
Wow. So, I think reliable and flexible, it's got to be good old rock and roll and A.
Easy going. Yeah. That definitely. Great. So I think we are all set for the Data Protection Backup Monster Show 2024. What do you think? So I think we can say to all of the audience that we'll see each other in a year. So yeah, I think we all set. We are actually run 1 hour. Dave, like always, was a pleasure, and hosting you and be as a guest. I'm looking forward that we have a face-to-face meeting on a
Yes.
Backup Monster show. So hopefully the future will brings us this opportunity. If not, we'll try to sync we spoke last week, US in Europe. But definitely, I would like to thank you for the time spending. The report is massive, lots of useful information for our audience. I just want to remind, if you would like to have more information, questions, feel free to do not hesitate to contact me directly. Go on a Storware site or go on to the Dave on Veeam to find more information. The report is downloadable if you go to the first slides, and you have lots of QRs, so easy to reachable. So learn, take the best practices, and see you on one of the next Backup Monster episodes. Because I had problem with my guitar, I asked my team that after we will fade out, we will send our latest clip from the last year in Backup We Trust. So this will be also the
Nice.
the Storware rock metal thing that we many times sharing with our audience. We right now develop few new songs, but we will let you know soon enough. We need to have more time and a few more practices. So Dave, thank you. Anything else from your side, my friend?
No, I just want to thank you and thank everyone for tuning in, but really appreciate the opportunity to come and visit again. It's always a pleasure. And I'm already looking forward to 2024. And hopefully between now and then, like you say, we really will get to meet somewhere face to face.
Yeah, so keep fingers crossed. Have a great day for everybody. Stay safe and see you on one of the next Backup Monster Show episode. Bye-bye.
Recover protection, we try the best to follow.